Let's get right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are doing a complete scientific decoding of adult content addiction. And look, we're approaching this with absolute empathetic objectivity. No moral judgment here, zero. We're just looking at the facts, the biology, and the psychology behind a struggle that, let's be honest, millions of people face quietly every single day.
So I want to start with a really direct, maybe slightly uncomfortable question. Why do we consume things that we know destroy us? Think about it. So many people who engage with this content already know it leaves them feeling terrible. You get the guilt, the shame, that total drop in motivation, it's all there. But they keep going back. What I really want to validate for you today is that this internal tug-of-war isn't a moral failing, not at all. It is literally a mechanical failure of your brain's dopamine system. And the good news is, once you understand how the mechanics work, you can actually fix the machine. What we're doing today is basically a clinical autopsy of a hidden epidemic. We are completely stripping away the shame to look under the hood. We're going to reveal the biological hooks and psychological traps so we can finally map out a real, actionable path to freedom.
Okay, so from an evolutionary standpoint, our brains are hardwired to seek pleasure. It's literally how our species survived. Historically, dopamine was your brain's reward for doing something difficult, hunting, building a shelter, finally achieving a tough goal. That is what we call healthy dopamine. You earn it through effort, and that deep satisfaction sticks with you. But adult content, it delivers unhealthy dopamine. It gives you this instant, massive, totally unearned chemical rush. And here's the real issue. Our human brains simply were not built to handle this level of digital gratification. It spikes your dopamine so unnaturally high that you are guaranteed to experience a severe, crushing emotional crash right after.
So what happens when you keep hitting your brain with that unnatural rush? Well, you enter the tolerance cycle. Day 1, initial exposure. You get that massive dopamine spike. But fast forward a few weeks, and your brain actually gets desensitized. The normal stuff just doesn't work anymore. Fast forward a few months, you've developed a high tolerance. Now your brain is craving much more extreme, aggressive content just to feel anything at all. And this escalating demand? It's biologically identical to the tolerance an alcoholic or a drug addict builds up. You're not just watching a video anymore. You are chemically conditioning your brain to require heavier and heavier doses of a digital drug.
And the sheer medical reality of these constant dopamine surges leads to something called frontal lobe shrinkage. Your frontal lobe is the rational decision-making center of your brain. It is literally what makes us human. It helps us gauge right from wrong and make logical, long-term choices. When neuroscientists actually scan the brains of people addicted to this content, they find that this rational center physically shrinks. So in a very literal sense, this addiction de-evolves the user. It strips away your logical thinking and replaces it with impulsive, animalistic, compulsive behavior. And as you might guess, this brain shrinkage leads to a massive mental health fallout. We are talking about ADHD, severe anxiety, panic attacks, depression, and just a total loss of drive for real-world goals. So many people are out there walking around feeling completely emotionally numb, exhausted, constantly anxious, and they think, oh, it's just work stress, or it's just life getting to me. But the science shows us that these are actually the invisible, biological symptoms of a totally drained dopamine system and a shrinking frontal lobe.
All right, so that's the biological side. Now we really need to pivot and look at the psychology. Here is a massive breakthrough in how we view this. Lust is not just an action. It is an escape mechanism from yourself. We usually think of this addiction as a pursuit of pleasure, right? But it's actually the exact opposite. It's a desperate sprint away from pain. It's a coping mechanism for running away from uncomfortable, unresolved feelings that you just don't want to sit with.
So what exactly are we running from? Well, most of the time, it's the discomfort of stillness. It's daily stress, the fear of failure, boredom, or deep loneliness. There's this incredibly powerful anecdote from our source experts that perfectly illustrates this. One expert realized his addiction was actually a way to escape stillness. Why? Because when he was growing up, his family struggled financially. In his childhood home, stillness meant anxiously waiting for a loan shark to knock on the door, or dreading the moment a teacher would publicly humiliate him for unpaid school fees. His brain learned, on a deeply neurological level, that stillness meant danger. So as an adult, he used adult content simply to drown out the terrifying silence of an empty room. It really makes you wonder, what are you running from?
When we constantly use this content to escape, it entirely warps our perspective on human connection. Think about the difference between real relationships and real relationships. Real relationships on a screen are completely fake. They're built on camera tricks, visual effects, objectification, and monetary profit. It is an illusion strictly designed by corporations to hijack your brain.
On the flip side, real relationships, whether that's between a mother and son, brother and sister, or husband and wife, those are built on purity, love, deep understanding, and genuine companionship. The real tragedy here is that the addiction trains your brain to seek digital triggers everywhere, which slowly erodes your ability to experience those pure, fulfilling, real-world connections.
A great way to think about this is through a simple philosophical analogy. Our mind is like a garden. If we don't care for it, toxic weeds will naturally take over. It's really that simple. Whatever you feed your attention to is exactly what's going to grow. If you plant beautiful flowers and tend to them, your garden flourishes. But if you just leave the gates wide open to whatever the internet wants to feed you, toxic weeds are going to take root and completely dominate your thoughts. It's basically an inescapable law of nature, just applied to your own psychology.
Let's zoom out for a second, though, and look at the macro, societal impact of these weeds. Take a look at this number. According to the data, India currently ranks second or third globally in searching for this specific type of adult content. Think about the scale of that. This isn't just an isolated, private struggle anymore. When you have millions of people routinely shrinking their frontal lobes and draining their natural drive, it transforms from a personal issue into a massive societal tragedy.
In that massive scale, completely shatters the illusion of the innocent, victimless view. We all like to tell ourselves, hey, I'm just watching a video in the privacy of my own room, I'm not hurting anybody. But the harsh reality is that the victims in many of these videos are someone's kidnapped brother, sister, or child. By consuming this content, you are actively creating the market demand that directly fuels global coercion, abuse, and human trafficking. Your private screen time is intrinsically linked to a horrific cycle of real-world pain.
And here is another reality that almost no one considers. Engaging with this content is a literal national security threat. Seriously, think about it. Hostile entities know exactly what the youth are searching for online. So these unprotected sites are deliberately loaded with severe malware. Cyber warfare operations target these exact high-traffic vulnerabilities to steal personal data, extract private photos for blackmail, and ultimately to weaken the psychological resilience of an entire nation's youth. So you aren't just harming yourself, you are literally opening the front door to cyber attacks.
Okay, take a breath, because we are diving into the solution now, and the news here is incredibly empowering. I want to introduce you to your brain's new best friend, neuroplasticity. This is your brain's biological capability to essentially forget and rewire itself. Just like a muscle atrophies and shrinks if you stop working it out, the toxic neural pathways built by addiction will naturally weaken and completely disappear if you stop stimulating them. Yes, for sure, you are going to face withdrawal symptoms at first, just like quitting any addictive drug. But if you can withstand that initial discomfort, your brain has the phenomenal ability to physically heal and rewire itself. So, practically speaking, how do we intercept that automatic reflex to escape? We use something called the 60-second pause. It's 3 simple steps. Step 1, stop immediately the second a trigger hits. Just freeze. Step 2, ask yourself out loud, what feeling am I running away from right now? Am I bored? Stressed? Lonely? And then step 3, sit quietly with that uncomfortable feeling until it passes. Remind yourself that you're safe. You do not need to run. If you can just sit with the silence for 60 seconds, that overwhelming panicky urge to escape will wash over you, peak, and then naturally fade away.
Now, keep in mind, just quitting the bad habit is really only step 1. If you just quit, you're going to be left with the giant, empty void. True recovery comes from actively refilling that void. You literally have to build a life so engaging, so vibrant, that you no longer feel the need to escape from it. Channel all that reclaimed energy into building a fulfilling career or starting a business. Cultivate pure, deeply respectful relationships. Throw yourself into fitness and meaningful hobbies. Learn how to stand your ground and face your raw emotions without any fear.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to carry with you today. Imagine stripping away all the noise, all the societal expectations, and all the digital escapes. It's just you, alone in a room. If absolutely nobody was watching, what life would you truly build if you finally stopped escaping? You have the biological power to rewire your brain, and you have the psychological power to face your fears. It's time to drop the guilt, reclaim your agency, and start building your true potential today. Thanks for tuning in, and keep learning.